and welcome back. Have you ever had a child that had a lot of energy and you took them outside to run around and get some of that energy out, and then when they were outside they sat and smelled flowers or stayed in the same position for half an hour watching a little ant crawl, and you're like, you had all this energy, why aren't you using it outside? I know that happened with my children sometimes, and it happens with my students. They'll be running and jumping in the classroom and I'll go, okay, great, it's almost time to go outside. But outside, they might actually want to use that time to be quieter, reflective, or really studying nature, right? And they're not wanting to run and jump. So that's a good reason to have some gross motor equipment inside. Also, they just always, when they're 1 and 2, want to use their bodies in big, strong ways. And we can do that with, some bigger, complicated, practical life exercises as well. And all that's great. Or bring me games. There's a lot of ways to do movement with our children in our homes or in our classroom. And we can also have a few items inside that allows them to work on their gross motor, because we're working on connection, we're working on language, we're working on gross motor and fine motor skills, because if they have all of those things, they can access any learning they want. But sometimes we don't have very much space inside. And that was true. I had 3 children in a 1,000 square foot house, so we didn't have a lot of room for running and jumping around. And in my classroom, we want to make sure that the large movement isn't interrupting, the smaller, concentrating movement. And I used to just have items they could use anywhere in the classroom. But over the last few years, I've experimented with different ways of incorporating that into my classroom, and I found a way that I think works really well in my classroom. And that's why I'm standing here, because the small space in my classroom is actually this little hallway. And we'll have, sometimes 1 or 2 children using this hallway for some large muscle movement and just plain old fun, making obstacle courses. And I'll have, 6 or 7 or 8. And what I did was I took some photos of them while I was observing them in the classroom of different ways they arrange just these 3 basic, easy to find, even really easy to make, and I'll talk about that. And they just arrange them in all sorts of ways, and they're building their muscles, they're building their coordination, and their gross motor planning as they design how they're going to arrange these items and how they're going to use the items. And so here are the items. I have these 2 cushions. One is a wedge, one is like a little step, so they'll use it in all sorts of ways you'll see, and they'll use the wedge as a slide. And I like these because they're vinyl, in a Montessori Toddler classroom. They get a lot of use, so I want something that we can just wipe down and not have to unzip and throw in the washing machine. These clean up very nicely, even though they're light shades. But if you don't want to buy these, you can just use, old couch cushions or really large pillows and get the same effect. So these I've had a while, and they're just cork yoga blocks. They're very solid. They can stand on them and it doesn't compress them at all, so it gives them solid footing on these, which is nice too, so they can experiment with balancing all different ways and not have to worry about slipping off in a way they can't predict. They can stack them all sorts of ways. What I like about these two is that they're heavy. 1 and 2-year-olds like heavy work, and 1-year-olds like it even more than 2-year-olds. And so it's giving them some challenge just carrying them about. Same with the wedges. One of my students, he was so proud the first time he could lift the wedge and the step and put it back on the shelf, because it's heavy, takes a lot of coordination. And he was just so proud when he did it the first time. So they'll use these yoga blocks and the gymnasium pieces together, but you could easily, make these out of wood just for use in your home. Of course, if you had a wood floor, you would want to put something underneath so it wouldn't scratch. And yeah, they also like to use them for little step stools to, look out the window when the garbage truck goes by. Okay, and this is the last of the 3 basic items we have, and then I'll show you those photos of all the different ways that children arrange them. And these are the Calio brand. We call them circle planks. They're just stepping stones that they use to make all kinds of different paths. They can stack them. They have a nice lining so that they don't skid around even when they're stacked on top of each other. And another just bonus too is they do have different colors, and sometimes I'll play the bring me game with them, bring me different colors. That's a especially fun way to pack up if they forget to put the circle planks away. So here are those photos I promised you, just a few samples of the way they arrange these, and of course the toddlers in your life will come up with all kinds of ways. I didn't have to give very many suggestions. I just played with them myself in front of them a few times to just make it clear that these were okay to stand on, because that's different than any other work in our classroom. And the only other limit within that freedom is where they could be used. So I have a little wood strip that joins the flooring, and they just know that that's where the hallway ends, and they can use the materials in that area. You could create a corner of your home or your own classroom with some shelves or even some tape on the floor and say, this is where these go. And then I gave a few lessons on how to set these down without throwing them, because they are shaped like frisbees, so it wouldn't be uncommon if they attempted to throw them. So we just show them how to set them down nicely. Same with the yoga blocks. And all these items are very durable. And some ideas for you, whether you get these actual materials or not, isn't important. You can DIY it, especially if you're just doing it for one or two children in your own home. They wouldn't have to be as durable as the materials here in my Montessori toddler classroom. All right, let us know in the comments if you have any of these items and how your toddlers use them, or if you have some Montessori toddler gross motor movement materials that your toddlers really enjoy, and share that in the comments, please. All right.